Today we're going to apply everything that we learned about sine, cosine, and tangent, and even and odd functions. So we're going to use variables this time rather than numbers. So first let me review that whenever you're doing sine of a function, and we're going to represent the angle T instead of theta. And what happens is whenever your angle is more than 2 pi, what happens is when you go around the circle, you can get what we call a coterminal angle, and it will put us back at the same spot, which means, for example, let's say that our angle was 420. So if we break it down to this format, that means that we would have to go around our circle one full time, which is 360, and then 60 more would give us 420. So it'll look like this. Sine of 60 plus 2 pi, which is 360. And if you wanted to do it in radians, it'll be sine of pi over 3 plus 2 pi. So what that means is, instead of worrying about what sine of 420 is, we're basically only finding sine of 60. Or, in radians, sine of pi over 3. So no matter what, if the angle is more than 360 or 2 pi, you can find that angle on your circle. So however many times you go around the circle, it does not matter, because you're going to end up at the same reference angle or the same spot. And cosine works the same way. So cosine of any angle that's more than 2 pi is the same thing as finding just cosine of your angle or your reference angle. And same thing, you can use the same exact example. So I'll use something different. If they ask you to find cosine of 390, well, we know that 390 is not on our circle. So to break it down, we're actually doing cosine of 30 plus 360, which is the same thing as finding cosine of 30 degrees. And if you want to do it in radians, it would be cosine of pi over 6 plus 2 pi is the same thing as finding cosine of pi over 6. Now tangent is a little different, because tangent cycle or period ends at pi. So when you're finding a tangent function, it starts over every pi units. So like on the circle, when we start here, this is 1 pi, 2 pi. So it goes, it keeps repeating every pi units. But it doesn't matter if you go more than half of the circle, it always puts you back at tangent of your original angle. Okay, and then to review, we learned previously that cosine is the only even function, which means when you find cosine of an angle, and this T means that we're going counterclockwise, it'll be the same thing as finding, or cosine of a negative angle, I should say, would be the same thing as finding cosine of the positive angle. Now, sine and tangent are different because when you find sine or tangent of a negative angle, it does the opposite, or you get the opposite value. So we're going to use these to help us simplify expressions and write them in terms of A, B, and C. Okay, so we're going to let sine t equals A. So every time you see sine t, you're going to change it to an A. Cosine of t is going to equal B. And tangent t will be C. All right, so these are the expressions that we're simplifying. And we'll just do a couple. For the first example, tangent of negative t minus tangent of t. So if you notice, remember this, whenever you're finding tangent of a negative angle, it makes your expression negative. Minus tangent of a positive angle, we know it's still positive. Well, we see that tangent of t is c, but I have a negative in front of it, so that's negative c minus c gives us negative 2c. So that's what we're doing. We're writing the expressions in terms of A, B, and C. Let's try another one. We have 3 cosine of negative t minus cosine of t. Well, we have this negative. And remember, cosine of a negative angle doesn't change. So that's the same thing as doing 3 cosine of t minus cosine of t. So we see that cosine t is b. So I'm going to substitute 3b minus 1b gives me 2b. And so that's what we're doing each time. Okay, let's try another one. So we have sine t plus 2 pi plus cosine t plus 4 pi minus tangent t plus pi. All right. Remember earlier in the notes I gave you a formula. And remember doing sine of anything more than 2 pi is the same thing as doing its coterminal angle, which will put us right back at t. Same thing with cosine. Doesn't matter that we're going around the circle 2 times because that's 4 pi. If you find its coterminal angle, that'll put you right back at t. Minus tangent, remember, repeats every pi units. So that's the same thing as going right back to its coterminal angle. This, and then now we can substitute. Sine of t is a, cosine of t is b, tangent of t is c. So that's your answer. I know it seems different when it's variables, but they want to make sure that you all understand coterminal angles. All right, now this is a long one. Minus tangent negative t minus pi. All right, let's break this one down. Now it doesn't matter. You know, when you see the negatives, that means that we're going around the circle, but going in the opposite direction. So now we're going clockwise. Now remember, sine's value, sine is an odd function now, which means if you're going clockwise, it's going to change your values to a negative. Cosine is an even function, so just because we're going opposite or clockwise, your values are still the same. Tangent is an odd function. So because of that, if you go clockwise, you know the negative means clockwise. And remember now, we're only looking at t. The 2 pi, the 4 pi, the pi, that's just meaning that you had to go around the circle more than once. Or more than its period. So with tangent, if you go clockwise, it's going to change the value. All right, now I'm going to substitute. This will be negative a plus b, and these two negatives make a plus c. Okay, and then the last one. This one's a long one. All right. This t, our angle, we are going around positive, but there's a negative in front of it. So this still remains as negative cosine t. This one, our angle is still positive, but we have a 7 cosine t. And it's 1,000 pi, which means we went around the circle 50 times, because 50 times 2 pi is 1,000 pi. Excuse me, 500. Then we have tangent of t, so we're okay, because we're still under 2 pi. Then we have tangent of t plus 99 pi. And remember, that just means that we had to go around the circle a little more, but that'll put you right back at your coterminal angle. Then we have sine of t, which we're okay because we're under 2 pi. And then the last one, we had to go negative 1,000 pi, which is 500 times, but this time we went clockwise. Our angle is still positive, so we're okay. Okay, and then now I'm going to go through and substitute my variables. Remember, cosine is b. So negative b plus 7b plus c plus c plus a plus a. You got to make sure you have a variable for each trig function. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you just combine like terms. We have 2 a's. Negative 1b plus 7b is 6b. And this is 2c. And there's your answer. So these practice plus problems are now trying to apply everything you learned. So the pi, the 2 pi, that just means how many times you're going around a circle. What you're concerned with is the angle t. If it's positive, then you're going counterclockwise. Cosine, sine, and tangent are fine because they're in the quadrant 1, everything's positive. But when you go, see, in quadrant 1, everything's positive. But when you go counterclockwise, that's when things change. Because now, sine and tangent, the exact values now are negative. So that's why those change. And that's it.